All right. All right. Shalom Yahshua. And honors to our Heavenly Father and our great Yahweh Bashem Yahushua, Hashem Harakakadash, double honors to the apostles and the bishops of Great Millstone, and salutation to my fellow laborers in the Mashak Yahushua, puts the doctrine across for a win. Shalom. All right, you can see the title. All right, this is inspired by one of my favorite ball players, Paul Pierce. When he played, he was a dog, you know, but at the end of the day, these guys are of the world. They put all that energy and dedication to corruptible crowns. Get a fucking ring and a trophy. Fuck that. We want immortality. But as it pertains to his craft, he was one of the best to do it. And they had him on a podcast last week, and he said some things that synchronized with the scriptures about marriage here in America. All right, marriage here in America is not biblical. It's off. And when you come to this thing of ours, the Spirit tells us, brothers that are not bound to a woman, seek not a wife here in America. All right. And if you do deal with a woman, you don't get married to her according to the standards, what they call marriage here in America. Go to the Justice of Peace, sign your John Doe on that contract. All right. That's totally contrast to biblical marriage, what the Lord instituted in the scriptures. You don't do that. You're going off. All right. That's one of the philosophies of the beast. All right. You're following the beast system when you get married according to Romans standards. Okay. And I'm about to play this clip, funnel it through the scriptures, and Abaratazai is edifying to the hearers.
Yeah.
I don't think it's realistic long term until I turn 70.
I am done. I've never been more done with it.
I'm 47 right now. Until I turn 70, that's the only realistic part I see is because we both old. We ain't out in the streets. We at home watching TV. You go take me to the hospital. I'm going to take you to the hospital. That's it. Marriage is for old people and poor people.
Okay, so let's get into that. Why?
Because when you broke, our parents, like my moms and all them, they married on a merit of like, okay, we're going to put our incomes together, have all these kids, and then when our kids, we're going to have 5, 10 kids back in the 60s, all them, they're going to have 5, 10 kids so they can work and bring income.
Yeah.
So you poor. So you married for that. And now when you get old, somebody that to be by your side to take care of you. Outside of that, it's no advantage to a man. What does it do for a man when things go south? Like, we gonna have to give up half our this, pay child support, but it's only advantageous to a woman. Like, it's real talk.
But what if you meet a woman and you're like, wow, she's a gem, she's valuable, she's everything, and I want to lock her down in marriage?
I don't want to lock no woman down. We could be cool.
So you're telling me right now today, you on January 4th, you do not want to be in a relationship ever again?
I don't think it's realistic long term until I turn 70.
I am done.
See, nobody care what you so-called black women opinion is, all right? And I did a video the other day about some 2/3 dudes at the job, and they was on that same type of time, saying they don't want to have nothing to do with so-called black women, okay? And the reason Paul Pierce is saying that, man, because when you look at the statistics, it's like 8 out of 10 black so-called black women, no women, period, file for divorce. Okay, men don't hardly file for divorce. When we in something, we in it to the long haul. The only thing that probably make a man want to say fuck it is when his woman cheats on him. But men are ready to go through struggles. They're ready to go through hardships and things, and women are not. And then when you sign that contract and it goes south, all of your resources go to the woman. Half of your she brought nothing to the table, all right? But she leaves with half, all right? That's not biblical. It's not scriptural. It's satanic. And a brother that comes to this faith, don't do it, all right? You got multiple scriptures that tell us not to do things the way the Romans do, okay? So I'm gonna start off in the book of Sirach. Okay. We'll start off in Sirach. Bear with me. This is Sirach 7 and 26. Hast thou a wife after thy mind? Forsake her not, but give not thyself over to a light woman. All right. Now, what's a woman after thy mind? All right. If you get a woman after thy mind, guess what? That woman is in alignment with the laws, statutes, commandments of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua. Okay. She thinks like an Israelite woman, an Eastern woman. Okay. All right. She fears the Lord. She fears her husband. And she doesn't subscribe to Western philosophy. Okay. But it said, give not over thyself to a light woman. Let's see what a light woman is. Okay. A simple woman. All right. This is the book of Psalms 119 and 126. All right. It is time for thee, Yahweh, to work, for they have made void thy law. All right. That's a light woman is a woman that's outside of the temple. All right. She's not living according to the law, statutes, and commandments of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua. The law of Moses is void in her life. All right. So when she's outside of the temple, there's nothing she won't do. All right. Because the beginning of wisdom is to fear the Lord. She doesn't have fear to transgress their law. Okay. She has no understanding. Okay. So a woman after our mind is going to be a woman that submits to us and carries out the commandments and do as the law tells her to do. Okay. And you're not going to find that here in America for the most part. All right. The Lord has set up elect ladies, okay, that are gonna make it out of here in America. And they're gonna be few and far in between. But a lady, according to our mind, has the mind of Hamashiach Yahushua. Let me get that. This is this is 1 Corinthians chapter 2. I'm gonna go straight to the point. Verse 15. But he that is spiritual judge of all things, yet himself a judge of no man. For who knoweth the mind of a Mashiach that he may instruct him? But we have the mind of a Mashiach, you see? So if you get a woman that's according to your mind, she's going to be in alignment with the scriptures. All right? And let me tell you something. Your vast majority of the women that are American raised, all right, they're out of alignment with the spirit and they're satanic because of white supremacy, all right? And you have this thing called cultural hegemony. I'm going to bring out this definition, all right, which is totally contrast to the law, statutes, and commandments of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua. This is westernization, okay? Cultural hegemony refers to the dominance of a particular ruling class worldview and values, shaping a society's cultural norms and beliefs so that they appear natural and inevitable. All right. So if you follow this prescription here in America, all right, you're going to be totally contrast to these scriptures written in ancient time past with Eastern principles, values, philosophies. Okay. This is westernization. Okay. The dominance is achieved not through coercion, but through subtle control over cultural institutions like education. So you don't want no American educated woman talking about I got my diploma and I graduated from this institution of higher learning. A woman like that is a Westerner. She's not marriage material. Okay. She's not going to live according to biblical principles. All right. Cultural hegemony, which the scriptures call it wine. The Lord said, let no man spoil you through philosophy and vain deceit, which is wine, wicked wine. All right. These women don't make good wives. All right. Through institutions like education, media, literature, untimely influence. All right. Influences like Cardi B, hip hop, black culture, literature. It's just everywhere. Over the movies, they just show you things that are, these women grow up from birth reading these things. Because I remember one time when my daughter was like 6 or 7, and she came under me. She at 6 or 7 had the understanding that a man shouldn't cheat on a woman is only for one man. I never taught her that. When my daughter was 6 or 7, I was in the faith. So I never taught her that. She just learned that from society. They just get it through all of these media outlets, the internet, the women in their lives, okay? The men in their lives, all right? And it gets in their psyche young, okay? All right? Which ultimately influences how individuals perceive and understand their social reality, okay? So a person that's been spoiled through culture hegemony, all right, man or woman, but for the sake of this conversation, a woman, when it comes to her marital role, the things that she's supposed to do in a marriage, she's going to be looking at it through the lens of the oppressor. And the oppressor's philosophies are total contrast to what the Lord raised up the Israelites to do, how the Lord told a woman she should conduct herself in a marriage, okay? In fact, hold up. I got something I want to bring out. Watch this. I had this one up first. Now check this shit out, okay? Now this is AI. I like AI. I fucks with AI. Like Elder Yashawam, I seen him the other day. He said, don't get too hooked on it. You know, don't get too hooked on AI. It'll take you left a lot. But hey, this one here is accurate. Now look, I put the contrast between marriage in ancient Israel and ancient Rome. All right, you got to understand, America is the beast that wound is healed. So America is a carbon copy of ancient Rome. Okay, now this is what the script did, and you see what I clearly put on here: the contrast between marriage in ancient Israel and ancient Rome. Okay, in fact, I want to bring out the scripture first. This is why Paul said what he said. All right. All right, I got to bring this out before I bring out that piece from AI. All right, this is 1 Corinthians. We'll go down to the 7th chapter. Okay. It's 1 Corinthians 7 and 6. But I speak this by permission and not of commandment. All right, because all things are lawful, everything is not expedient. And when you get to understand Paul's writings, a lot of things he taught, it seemed like it was contrary to the law. All right, because when you're in captivity, you can't fulfill the law 100% because you're occupied by another nation and you're under their rule. So whereas homos and adulterers are protected by the nation that has conquered you. So you can't fulfill the law by slaying them, doing what what the law of Moses told us to do. So Paul was teaching a lot of things. He was giving us game. He said, man, while you're in captivity, all right, I'm not speaking this according to commandment, but I'm speaking this according to permission that Yahweh B'Shem Awashai has given me to give to you so you can know how to move in captivity. Permission, dispensation, one of the same. Okay? I'm going to skip down to verse 26. Okay? Now this is 1 Corinthians 7 and 26. It reads, I suppose, therefore, that this is good for the present distress. I say that it is good for a man so to be. All right. Now you got to know what this present distress is. I went on this into this several times. Okay. The present distress. In fact, let me get it in the NLT. Let's see what it says in the NLT. That present distress is cultural hegemony. Hellenization, Westernization. That's what it is. What I just read, that definition. Okay, that's the present distress Paul was talking about, and he was like, it's better not to marry under those circumstances. All right, this is 1 Corinthians 7:26. All right, in the NLT. Because of the present crisis, I think that it's best to remain as you are. Don't get married. Now, what is this present crisis? Okay, here we go again. Cultural hegemony. Oh shit. Let me go back. I'm gonna go back to cultural hegemony, and I'm gonna come back to that. Okay. Cultural hegemony refers to the dominance of a particular class, worldview, and values. All right. Now you got to understand, during that time, we were conquered by the Greeks and the Romans. They dominated us. All right. They were ruling over us, and then they put on us violent their worldview and their values, shaping a society's cultural norms. And they made void the law of Moses, took away our customs and culture, and Hellenized us, Westernized us. All right, they took away our cultural norms, beliefs, so that they appear natural and inevitable. The dominance is achieved through coercion, but through substantive control over cultural institutions like education, schools. They got us in our schools to rape us mentally. All right, they put us in these colleges to rape us mentally. All right, and Paul say that's the present distress. All right. And then in NLT, it says, because of the present crisis. That's a crisis when you get away from your customs and culture, and then you're given this satanic mindset violently. And Paul say, if you got to pick women that are educated from this pool, this mindset, it's best not to get married. You see, that was the present crisis. Okay. And let me go back to no, that's not what I wanted. Now let me go back to the difference. This was the crisis right here. All right. Now listen. All right. This is what AI said. This was just we went from holiness to Satanism. The contrast between marriage in ancient Israel and ancient Rome. Here we go. In ancient Israel and ancient Rome, marriage was viewed differently. All right. Now, during Paul's time and the disciples' time and our great king time, all right, the Romans was ruling over us. Okay. You got to know your history. You can't understand the scriptures if you don't know history. Elder Apostle Gabar always say you can't understand the mystery if you don't know the history. All right. So Rome was ruling over us. They had occupied Judea. They had conquered us, and the Greeks had conquered us before them, and they Hellenized us. Okay. They forced their Hellenization upon us, okay? And this was a distress to the Jews in Jerusalem, the ones that hadn't conformed to that Greek Hellenization, all right? And this is why Paul said what he said. In ancient Israel and ancient Rome, marriage was viewed differently. They're night and day. In Israel, marriage was often a family affair arranged by parents with emphasis on the family's economic and social standings. That's why a father and two men will come together. They say, we're going to unite our families together. I'm going to give my daughter to your son and your son to my daughter, and we're going to create our bond. And look, and then we're going to deal with each other economically. And hey, look, we're going to be together. We're going to be bonded together. All right. That's the way things were done in ancient Israel. A bride price was common, a dowry, representing the loss of a worker in the bride's family. And the bride often moved into the groom's household. Okay. And the groom had all power over her. Okay. All right. She had to submit to him. In Rome, all right, now listen, it's totally different from biblical way of living, the ways of the Israelites, all right? This is what our conquerors, the Romans. In Rome, marriage could be based on love. You see what I'm saying? And their definition of love is different than ours. What is love? Keeping the commandments. Their definition of love is an emotion that could be here one day and gone the next. You don't want to marry nobody like that. All right. Our definition of love is rooted in fear, respect, honor. Okay. Keeping the commandments, order. All right. Those are two different vibrations. frequencies, okay? In Rome, marriage could be based on love, with couples exchanging vows in front of witnesses. Roman women, while still subject to patriarchal structures, had more freedom and rights than in ancient Israel. You see, they had the liberty to be whores. They had the liberty to pick their own husbands. Okay, they had liberty that an Israelite woman couldn't have. All right, these women in America are nothing but whores and polluted because they have liberty that they should not have. And Paul said, you shouldn't marry these women. Okay, it's better to serve the Lord and not marry these type of women, because this is the pool you got to pick off of. Now he said that was that present distress he was talking about, including the ability to inherit property. All right, now if a woman got married in ancient Israel and her father sent her some cattle and stuff and gave it to her husband had power those resources. Those resources went to her husband. All right, like if my daughter get married, they're gonna give me a dowry. All right, but I'm still gonna send my daughter something to help them build their household. Okay, but when I send my resources to my daughter and it goes with her, her husband has rulership over those things. Okay, but it's not like that in the Roman way. See, when women own things and stuff, they start saying, "Look, this is mine. This isn't yours. You can't tell me what to do with this." All right, that's not an Israelite custom. You don't want a wife like that. Okay, that's why the script that I brought out that first scripture. Do you have a woman's mind? A wife has thou a wife according to thy mind? All right, these Romanized American women are not according to our minds. Okay, including the ability to inherit property and manage their own affairs. A woman can't manage her own affairs. Okay, in the Israelite customs, she don't have that type of power. What? She has to get permission from her husband or her father. Okay. This is Genesis chapter 3, verse 16. And unto the woman he said, this is the law. I will greatly multiply thy sores and thy conception. And sorrow thou shalt bring forth children, and thy desire shall be to thy husband, and he shall rule over thee. All right. So that's somebody that doesn't have rulership or dominion over their decisions. Okay. But if you pick a woman out of that that have been westernized and Hellenized, all right, they think differently. They're not according to your mind. They're according to that cultural hegemony, the dominant powers mind. Okay, that's who they fear and tremble of. They're of their father, the devil. All right. Now this is marriage in ancient Israel, and then it's going to go down to tell you how marriage was in ancient Rome. Okay, and you're going to see the discrepancies. Marriage was typically arranged by parents, and that's what we're going to do in the kingdom. Okay, that's what we're going to do in the kingdom. My daughter's going to marry who I want her to marry. I might give my sons liberty to pick her husband. Like when you look at that movie, The Godfather, they sister didn't pick dude. The brothers picked her husband. All right, that's the way things should be. That's how you know a lot of those Italians are Israelites, often based on social and economic considerations. So be it. Okay. A bride price, which is called a dowry, also called the price of a dowry, was paid for the groom's family to the bride's family, okay? Reflecting the bride's value as a worker and future homemaker. You see, that's not done here in America. You're not going to get a woman here in America and say, look, I'm going to give you in marriage to this guy over here. That's who you're going to be with. That's who you're going to be with all the days of your life. And his daddy is in turn going to give me a ton of gold for your ass, okay? And then that's going to build up this family's infrastructure, all right, and build us up more economically. A woman going to be like, Daddy, you got me fucked up. You selling me like I'm some whore or something. You see, she's not according to your mind. She's not on that frequency. She's been spoiled through philosophy and vain deceit. You don't want a woman like that. That's why you shouldn't get married in America, okay? Emphasis on family. Marriage was viewed as a union between two families, with the bride moving into the husband's household. And this is another thing you got to understand about these two families. Both of these men, the heads of these households, filled Yahweh Shem Shai. Because in the book of Sirach, it say, give your daughter to a man that fears the Lord. Okay. So the two dads will court one another. They were courting one another. If this man fears the Lord, that means he's raising his son to fear the Lord. So I'm going to give my daughter to an upright family. Okay. And it also goes in the economy. All right. building up the family's wealth. Okay. Legal betrothal. Betrothal was a legal being staged with the wedding ceremony following. So be it. Yep. Divorce. While divorce was possible, it was typically initiated by the husband, and the payment was required to the wife. You see, a woman in ancient Israel couldn't. It was only one way she could petition for a divorce. That's if her husband committed adultery or he did some gay shit, fucked the animal or something, just some abominable shit. Outside of that, because she wasn't happy and he wasn't doing this, and he doesn't treat me like the apple of his eye anymore, so I'm leaving. Nah, she couldn't do that. Like the liberty she has here in America. All right. The husband had to do some abominable shit, commit adultery with another man's wife, do some bestiality type stuff. All right. Under those conditions, she could go. Okay. Now, this is women's rights in Israel. Women had limited rights and were primarily expected to fulfill domestic roles. You see? You pick a woman here in America, her mind is not according to that thought process, okay? All right? And that was that present distress Paul was talking about, okay? Age of marriage. And this blows all those people that call us pedophiles out of the water. Girls were often married during puberty, all right? Puberty starts at 12. Here in America, when these girls' periods are starting at 8 and 9, man, with us brothers, in the ancient world, no girl puberty was coming that fast. That's because of these steroids and shit they put in the food. And let's say a child puberty did start at 8 and 9. Ain't nobody touching her. We ain't no fucking freaks. Her breasts ain't performed, ain't came yet. She hasn't blossomed yet. Ain't nobody doing that. But we not fucked up like that. We're just saying in the ancient world, hey, as the philosophers say, all right, this is accurate. This way of living here in America is totally contrary to the ancient world. When a woman came into puberty, and because she could bear children, she was, sent off to marry, man. Okay. And the same with a young boy, a young lad. Okay. When he got to full strength, 12 to 14, where he could do everything on the farm, he could feed the cattle, he could till the ground, he's mastered everything on that farm. All right. He knows how to build things. All right. He understands the different seasons to plant different things. Once he had conquered everything on that farm, he was ready to have his own place. So at 12, 14, he could have his own shit. Like when I be going in the country, man, I be seeing little 12-year-old white boys riding four-wheelers. They be on the riding lawnmower, cutting it. I be seeing them little, I don't know how to ride a horse that good. I be seeing little 8, 9-year-old boys riding horses. Them little 8, 9-year-old white boys be out there with fucking 12 gauges hunting by themselves and shit. Okay? That's the way things were in the ancient world. You didn't wait till a boy turned 18 to do all these things. Nah. We were raising boys to be men. You just gotta let them be a child. Fuck that, man. That's some Western shit. You was raising a boy to be a man so he could get out on his own. Okay? Age of marriage. Girls were often married during puberty or shortly after, while men were slightly older. All right? And that's a woman comes in heat a lot of times before young boys do, So whereas she could get a period around 12, a boy probably don't. Like I didn't get loose until I was like 14. Now I had those impulses at 12, but at 14 I was like, yeah, in it, everything, So that's the contrast. Now let's see what it says about marriage in ancient Rome. Okay. All right. Love marriages. You see this love bullshit. See this shit, and love in this place is fake. It's an emotion. You can be emotionally connected. It happens to us men. You could be emotionally connected to a chick for a season, and then one day she just getting on your fucking nerves. All right. If that happens with an Israelite woman and you're not looking at her the same, you can't put her away. You still have to keep the commandments of Yahweh Shema Shai, no matter how your emotions feel. Okay, you have to give her due benevolence. When you take care of her stuff, When you're taking care of her, they can't diminish her food, her water, her raiment, everything you have to take care of, no matter how your emotions feel. Okay. But here in America, this is what they call marriage. While arranged marriage also existed in ancient Rome, love marriages were common, especially in the later periods of the Roman Empire. Okay. We didn't deal with marriage according to those standards in ancient Israel. You don't see nothing about it saying love. It said everything about the father arranging it, and whether the daughter or the son didn't want to do it or not, they had to do it. Okay. Had nothing to do with this emotional love bullshit. Dowries. A dowry was a gift from the bride's family to the couple, often used to establish the bride's separate property. You see, a bride didn't have a separate property in ancient Israel. Her property became her husband's property. Okay, that's a difference. So when she comes to the house, she's gonna tell her husband, "This is mine. My daddy gave me this." See, that's disruption in the house right there. You can't ride that horse. My dad gave me this horse and that cattle to till this ground. That's mine. You see? But Israelite man don't play that shit. Talking about separate property bullshit. You see? That's the difference. Free marriage. Over time, Roman marriage evolved from marriage with hand, which gave husbands control over their wives, to free marriage, which allowed women more autonomy. You see? A woman doesn't have no autonomy amongst Israelites, amongst our customs and culture. She don't have all those liberties, all right? The husband has full control over everything in the house. Divorce was relatively easy to obtain, requiring a declaration of intent before witnesses. You see? Okay? A woman can't go up and ask for a divorce amongst our people. And I gave you the conditions lest her husband commits adultery. Roman women had more legal rights than the counterparts in ancient Israel. That's why Paul said, don't marry him, because you was getting a woman that was Hellenized and she had that thought process. You get a woman talking about she got these legal rights and she come into your household, you're going to have hell in the household. You're going to have trouble in the flesh. She's not according to your mind, okay? Including the ability to inherit property, own businesses, and have a legal guardian. You see, that's the Western way. That's not biblical, and it's telling you that's what it is today. Women have legal rights, okay, the ability to own property, own businesses, and they tell you ain't shit, nigga. I got more than you, and have a legal guardian. Okay, so they have legal guardian over the children just as much as the man. Why put yourself in that predicament, Israelite man? Okay, Lord made us God kings. All right, lions have full authority over the pride. Okay, here we go again. Girls were legally able to marry at 12, and the age of marriage varied depending on social class. You see, so there we go at that 12 again. In this society, they're gonna call you a pedophile. But according to the law, statutes, commandments, and how things were even done in ancient Rome, all right, when a woman hit puberty, she was able to marry. Okay. You see? And we get demonized just for bringing that out. All right? And that's why here in America, these people are not, they're indoctrinated. They're not enriched and truly educated. All right? This is Hebrews chapter 13. Let me get Hebrews first. Hebrews 13 and 4. Marriage is honorable in all. Okay. Now, what is marriage? In ancient Israel, we married virgins. We married untouched maidens, man. We were the only men that laid with those women. Okay. And the bed undefiled. What defiles your bed? When your woman deals with another man, or this man deals with another woman that's married to a man. Okay, but whoremongers, pimps, and adulterers, men that deal with other men's wives and women that deal with other men, Yahweh would judge. So here in America, all right, when we get these women, most of them, the vast majority of them, are not untouched maidens, but they have this American education, all right, that is totally contrast to Yahweh Shem Shah. That's why Paul said, hey, it's better to be as I and don't marry. All right. You see? Because, hey, here in America, most of these so-called marriage beds, where they talking about they're together for love, the beds are defiled. All right. When these women feel you're not giving them the attention or the thrill is gone, they're going to go deal with other men. Why put yourself in that predicament? Okay. And this is what Paul was doing. You know, this 2 Corinthians. And Paul Pierce was right, man. It's stupid to get married in this society, man. And then let's say you just a 2/3 shit. Advice to a 2/3, fuck, you're gonna perish anyway, but hey, get a prenup. And when you go to get a prenup, I assure you that woman is not gonna want to marry. All right? Because you're not being a sucker. They want suckers. They want suckers, man. Okay. Steven Jackson, he got the bitch that he told her to sign the prenup or they wasn't gonna get married, and she didn't want to get married. She was looking for a sucker, right? Here we go, Paul again, and he was telling you, he was speaking not according to commandment, but he was giving his advice. All right. This is 2 Corinthians chapter 8, verse 8. I speak not by commandment, because there's no way we could carry out the judgments of the commandments here in America, okay? But by occasion of the forwardness of others, and to prove the sincerity in your love. For you know that the grace of Hamashiach Yahushua, you see, and that's why we're not under law, we're under grace, all right? Because we can't keep that law 100% in captivity, all right? So it's certain laws we can't keep, so the Lord takes away that sting, that penalty, that judgment, and we're under grace, so we learn how to move, because the Lord told us to be fruitful and multiply in the law, okay? But how you going to be fruitful and multiply in captivity? So that's why Paul said something totally contrary to the law. He say, don't get married. Don't get married in this place. That's contrary to the law. But that the Lord gave him the grace to teach us that, all right? Because though it's lawful, it's not expedient in captivity, because you're going to be getting married to a fucking Israelite with an Edomite mindset, okay? That though he is rich, he was rich for your sex, he became poor, that through his poverty might be rich. And herein I give my advice, you see, and this is what you got to understand. Paul was teaching us to navigate in captivity. All right, he giving us advice that was contrary to what the commandment said. Okay, he was teaching us how to use grace. So he said, herein I give my advice, and his advice is, don't get married in Babylon. Don't get married in America. Don't go sign those petitions, sign those covenants. Then once you sign, you're bound to them, and now she could just up and leave you for the smallest reason and take half of your resources. That's satanic, it's wicked, it's evil, and it's not biblical. But this is expedient for you. He's teaching you how to be expedient in captivity, who have begun before, not only to do so, but also forward a year ago. Now this goes to another topic, but you can use that point that he was making, all right? The point he was making, he was giving us advice how to move and be expedient in captivity, okay? All right? And his advice was, don't get married. And if you do get married, you know, you got to know how to move, all right? This is a scripture that IUIC mangles, all right? This is 1 Timothy. This was Paul's advice. This was advice, but it wasn't law. It wasn't commandment. It was advice how to move in captivity. Okay? This wasn't a commandment. All right? All things are lawful, but everything is an expedient. All right? This is 1 Timothy chapter 3. And I'm going to go straight to the point. All right? I'm going to start at verse 2. All right? 1 Peter 3 and 2. This is what these IUIC niggas mangle. A bishop then must be blameless, the husband of one wife, vigilant, sober, a good behavior, giving the hospitality and apt to teach. Why did Paul say he had to be the husband of one wife when, according to the law, we could have as many wives as we could take care of? Because guess what? What was these churches getting built? They were getting built in Asia Minor, man. It was getting in these Roman provinces where Roman law ruled the day. So if you're going to get multiple wives, it's hard to just get one wife that's under that Grecian thought process, okay? It's hard just to deal with one. What you going to get 5, 6, 7, 8, all right? So you got to fit for if you have to tend to the affairs of Yahweh Shemaiah's church, all right, you should only deal with one woman. That's expedient. It's expedient, all right, because you're going to have trouble in the flesh with women that think like these vile Edomites, okay? That's why Paul said you have one wife. That wasn't a commandment saying in the kingdom of heaven we're going to have one wife. You can only deal with one woman, and if you deal with another woman, you're committing adultery. That's not what that meant. This was advice. This was advice to those in the church. Okay? Okay? A bishop don't have time to be dealing with all the quarrels that come with the woman. He's over men, several churches. Okay? He only has the vast majority of his time should be dealing with the affairs of Yahweh Shema Shah and not the affairs of multiple women. All right, that was advice to him. Okay, I'm gonna skip down to verse 10. And let these also first be proved. All right, and let them use the office of a deacon, being found blameless. All right, us brothers got to be blameless in this thing, man. All right. Even so must their wives be grave, not slanderous, sober, and faithful in all things. Let the deacons be the husband of one wife, ruling their children in their own houses as well. Now, does that, like I just said up top, does that mean a deacon can't have multiple wives? No, it's not. If a man deals with multiple women, he ain't going off. It's just not expedient to do it in the church because we get so much work doing this thing, okay? A deacon is occupied. You got a lot of men under you. You have to deal with the affairs of things that arise amongst the brotherhood. You don't have time to be dealing with a woman with a Romanized, Americanized mindset. She's going to take you away from this thing of ours, okay? That's why Paul, and it's better to marry the bird. If you're going to marry, just deal with one. Don't go dealing with 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, okay? And if you can, don't do it. You say, if you can, don't do it. If you're not bound to a woman, seek not to get bound to one. Okay? Because here is like Paul Pierce say, hey, it's not going to benefit you. If you was in the world, it won't benefit you. You're going to lose everything. This society is satanic. It's a feminine society, a matriarchal society. The woman gets all the perks, and it's total contrast to the law, statutes, and commandments of Yahweh Shema Shah, where the man get all the perks, all right? So you don't want to be a part of that shit, okay? Now, if you got a few concubines, do your thing, do your thing, but don't get yoked and don't get serious with these women. God is going to bring, if you elect, he's going to get women joined to you. Isaiah 4:1 will happen on this side, but until then, man, it's just expedient to just stay occupied in this thing of ours, get your rocks off here and there, all right, and keep your eyes single on the prize. And like Paul Pierce say, it's not even beneficial to a nigga. Paul Pierce a nigga. He's of the world, all right? And he shouldn't have more understanding than people that know they're Israelites. He says it's just not wise at all. That nigga wasn't going off. He wasn't going off, okay? It's not wise. It's a no-win situation for men to get married here in America, okay? And then for a brother in the faith, you're gonna always have trouble in the flesh with these Americanized women, man. All right, they are chocolate covered Edomites, man. Okay, so with that, Abba Ratazah, this was edifying to the hearers. I'm gonna get infinite honors to our Heavenly Father and our great King, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, Bashem Hara Kakadash. Double honors to our elder apostles, elder bishops, a great millstone, and salutation to my fellow laborers in the Mashiach Yahushai. Kwam Yasharala, Abba Baal, Shalom.